Glad to have you with us here on this edition of Ravens Rundown by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here. It's an exciting week as the Ravens are just one win away from the Super Bowl, gearing up for the AFC Championship game this Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. And there have been some notable changes over the last few days to the Ravens depth chart and some anticipated changes. We want to kind of recap all of them for you and give us our takeaways. Let's start with the quarterback position. And no surprise, Lamar Jackson, of course, still QB1 with Tyler Huntley behind him. But let's note kind of the situation behind those guys there. If you recall last year, the Niners, because of this very man right here, Josh Johnson, had to come in and they were dealt with a bad situation. He got hurt after Brock Purdy got hurt. And they ended up in a pickle where they didn't have a number 3 quarterback. The rule has changed where you can have a third emergency quarterback. That's what the Ravens have done with Josh Johnson. He's expected to be the emergency quarterback, so they don't have a situation like the Niners did last year. Malik Cunningham not expected to be activated for Sunday's game against Kansas City, and you'll see these 3 quarterbacks in the roster. Before we go through the rest of the depth chart, plenty more to get to, want to make sure you're subscribed to Ravens Rundown as we are quickly approaching 15,000 subscribers on the channel, just over 40 away from reaching that milestone. I want to get there before game day. Can we make that happen? Flock, can we make that happen? Can we get the 15K? Sub for Ravens Dubs. We got a watch party coming this weekend for the Ravens-Chiefs game, but we need to get there first. So if you love your Baltimore Ravens, you want to join us for the run through the Super Bowl, subscribe now for free. You'll be glad you did. The backfield, with the Ravens moving on from Melvin Gordon, thank God. The Ravens now are led by Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Dalvin Cook at that number 3 running back position, and the great Patrick Ricard, of course, at the fullback position. I was really glad to see Dalvin Cook already get involved in this Ravens rushing attack last week. I would expect that his workload's going to increase, and he's a nice complement to the rest of the Ravens backfield. You see Edwards and Justice Hill bring that thunder, and Dalvin Cook kind of brings the lightning of sorts. I like that. And Dalvin Cook, we saw last week, he's got the fresh legs. He wasn't used a whole lot with the New York Jets this year. The Ravens' run game's been the best in the league all year. Watch out for the Ravens' run game to be very effective throughout these final couple of weeks. The receiving core for the Ravens, Flowers, Bateman, Beckham, the starting 3, of course. But watch out for what Nelson Aguilar could do. We know about Devin Duvernay, what he does in the return game. This receiving core is miles better than it was a season ago. Now, to the tight end position. We are expecting that if everything goes according to plan, Mark Andrews should be able to give it a go and play this week for the Baltimore Ravens against the Kansas City Chiefs. That would mean Isaiah Likely slides into the number 2 role and Charlie Kolar with the number 3 role. Now, here's what I want to see with Mark Andrews making his return this week. If you go back in time to the hot tub time machine, if we took a ride on the hot tub time machine back to the early part of the season, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely were not on the field a whole lot together. Likely was not really involved much in the offense. Then when Andrews went down, we saw Likely's role take a big increase, right? I want to see what Todd Monken can effectively do with some 12 personnel with these two on the field together. Who are you going to cover? To me, that is a nice mismatch that you can potentially exploit on some of these defenses. And Monken has a history of doing this before. It's one of the most effective things he did when he was the OC at the University of Georgia with Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington. So watch out for that. That could be a nice wrinkle for Baltimore this week against Kansas City. How would you grade the Ravens depth chart? We got more names to get to in just a second, but what do you think? It's a pretty good team. If you've made it this far, you got to be pretty good, right? A, B, C, D, or F. I'm spamming A in the comment section. Give me your grade and let me know what you think. To the offensive line we go. Ronnie Stanley, John Simpson, Tyler Linderbaum, Big Kev, and Morgan holding down those starting 5 positions. Hopefully Ronnie Stanley can play at a high level. It's been an up and down year for him so far in this 2023 through 24 campaign. To the defensive side of the ball, Brent Urban, Michael Pierce, Justin Matabuke, holding things down on those in. Matabuke leads the team in sacks. He has been terrific this year. One thing I'll say, though, there's not a whole lot of names there. There's not a ton of depth on the defensive line. And as the Ravens go through these final 2 weeks, I sure hope there's not an injury or something that happens there, because you just don't have a lot of wiggle room to work with. Yes, you have talent, but you don't have a ton of depth. That would be maybe my biggest concern with this Ravens team going through these final 2 weeks, is how can that defensive line hold up potentially with the lack of depth here in this final stretch. Going to be something to watch. What's your confidence level in this Ravens team as they face the Kansas City Chiefs this weekend? Patrick Mahomes and company coming to town. How good you feeling? Scale it for me 1 through 10. What you think about this matchup with Kansas City? I'm feeling pretty good. I give the Ravens about a 70% chance of winning, so that'd be a 7 for me. What about you guys? Weigh in the comment section. Let me know what you think. The linebacker room for Baltimore. This has been the best linebacker room in all of football, and we know how good Roquan Smith is, an all-pro. Patrick Queen this last year and a half has taken a significant step up, but that's not the full story. How about the veterans? Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy. Van Noy was signed in late September. Jadeveon Clowney was a late offseason addition. They were kind of afterthoughts, right? And what have they done with this Ravens team? They've been a mouthful, right? Both of these guys have had a lot of sacks. They've rejuvenized their careers. It makes you think, what would this Ravens team be without these two guys? They're chasing a ring. I love the story of what they've done, and to see them climb into these starting roles, pretty remarkable to say the least, what they've done with their impact with this Ravens team. The secondary, now, we'll see how Marlon Humphrey looks, if he can give it a go. Obviously, you get the injury concern with him. Geno Stone, it's interesting. I was reading about how the Ravens are trying to find the right way to make it work with him and Kyle Hamilton, because as good as Geno Stone has had of a season, he's in the top 2 of interceptions this year. None of that typically happens when he's on the field the same time as Kyle Hamilton. So this week, be very interesting to see what his snap count is and how his role is with Kyle Hamilton out there, how they can balance the two of those things. Marcus Williams, we've seen Brandon Stephens play really well this year. He's stepped up big time. This Ravens secondary, I know that they've had their injuries, but they've been able to manage through and still look like one of the best secondary units in all of football. Going to be very exciting to see what they could put together. And going up against this Chiefs receiving corps that's had its question marks throughout the year, that's going to be, to me, one big storyline to watch. How much do they shut down those guys? Now, we know Lamar is going to be the MVP of the league. But who is the Ravens team MVP? Is it Lamar? I could make a case for Kyle Hamilton. What do you guys think? Who is the team MVP? You don't have to say Lamar either. There's no wrong answers here. Weigh in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Last and least, the Ravens special teams unit, Justin Tucker, Jordan Stout, Tyler Ott in those spots. Devin Duvernay back from injury, holding down the kick and punt return spots. And I'll say this. When I look at last week, I didn't like what I saw from Jordan Stout, which is unusual because he's had a very good season. He's one of the better punters in the league. Hopefully he turns things around and puts last week behind him. I will say, though, Justin Tucker, we say it all the time around here, greatest kicker in the history of the league and all that, and as good as he is, the one knock this year was that he had only made one field goal from 50 yards or further. What was it, a 53-yarder he hit on Saturday? To me, that's a good sign. It's a good sign. Justin Tucker looking like the Justin Tucker we all know and love and trust. So very good stuff there from the special teams. Hopefully Jordan Stout gets back on track. Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of a Ravens Rundown. An exciting week ahead as we get you ready for the AFC Championship game. We're going to bring you daily coverage all week long. We're going to be live on the channel coming up for that Ravens-Chiefs watch party. Help us out. We're very close to 15,000 subscribers. Need your help to get there. Subscribe down. We'll see you next time here on Ravens Rundown.